You've got to get up pretty early in the morning to speak to America's hardworking farmers and food producers. We should know. FLM Harvest is a strategic, full-service creative consultancy proud to reach more farmers, farmer boards, and food and commodity associations than any agency in the country. And we understand omni-channel as well as we understand the journey from field to fork. Most importantly, we connect clients to the audiences that matter to them.
Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined as always by Agri-Pulse Senior Editor Phil Brasher, discussing the week that was, agriculturally speaking, in Washington, D.C. And in Washington, D.C. this week, preparations are for an upcoming summer vacation that Congress plans to take. It's an annual one, really. It's one of the favorite traditions here in Washington, the August recess. And the House of Representatives is definitely looking forward to it because after next week, they're out of town for a little while. Senate's sticking around for a week longer than that. One of the main things these two chambers and the Trump administration need to agree on before heading to that August recess is some sort of a deal for a budget that will allow the appropriations process to move forward. And this has been something we've been speaking about a little bit kind of every week on this program. But now we actually have some progress to report, Phil?
Well, it sounds like they are, as the chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee said today, close to a deal on both budget caps for the next 2 years, that's fiscal 2020 and 2021. Also on lifting the debt ceiling, the other big issue that's in play here. If they can get this done, voted on by the House next week before their recess starts, then, as you say, the appropriators can start on the Senate side, writing appropriations bills for the new fiscal year, which starts October 1st, and not very far away.
Right. So in theory, they, in a perfect world, let's say the House passes this next week, the Senate can take it up soon thereafter. One would assume either later next week or the week after. That means September is really going to be dedicated to the appropriations process and avoiding a government shutdown at the end of the month.
Yeah, and let's be clear. They won't get this done in September before September 30th. We're going to be back to what we've seen before. They're going to have to do a stopgap bill, a continuing resolution is what it's called. Wouldn't be surprised if it's into December, the end of the year. That's been the standard procedure the last few years. Mm-hmm. But at least they will have those spending caps. They'll know how much they can spend, and then they can actually pass something.
Right, so a long-standing issue that we've been talking about with you for a while. We're seeing some progress on it, and we'll be sure to keep you up to date next week in terms of how those negotiations unfold and what potential floor action we've seen. But speaking of another long-standing issue, the US-Mexico-Canada agreement, as frequent viewers and really readers of Agri-Pulse.com will know, the Trump administration's trade representative Robert Lighthizer has been meeting with a working group of House Democrats for a little while here to try and kind of parse out where the two respective parties stand on the US-Mexico-Canada agreement and just what House Democrats need to see in order to bring that deal to the floor for potential passage. And we do know that there were more meetings on that front this week, and House Democrats say they've kind of taken the opportunity to sort of iron out what they want to see out of the deal, and now they say they're waiting for some similar offerings from the Trump administration.
Yeah, so they want specifics on how their concerns would be addressed. There's an additional meeting planned next week before the recess. The goal here is to get these issues resolved so they can bring the implementing legislation to the House floor later this year, sometime before the end of the year. That could be right before Christmas, who knows? It usually takes a deadline, but the White House won't send that bill to Capitol Hill until House Speaker Nancy Pelosi indicates that they are ready to take it up and to pass it.
Mm-hmm. So you heard it here, folks. We can confidently report that the House will not pass the USMCA agreement before the August recess. We feel very comfortable in saying that at this point, given that they have 1 week left and the budget's going to take up a lot of legislative oxygen next week. But the dialogue between the Trump administration and House Democrats continues on USMCA. I want to wrap up this week talking about a hearing that happened here on Thursday morning. We're recording this on a Thursday Thursday afternoon regarding the Department of Agriculture's plans to relocate ERS and NIFA. As frequent visitors of Agri-Pulse.com will know, this is something the Trump administration has been looking at doing for about a year now. And we have seen reports that potentially less than 40% of the ERS and NIFA employees plan to relocate to Kansas City. But there's some disparity in those numbers as well, because that's less than 40% of what's left. And there's a good amount of employees that are already gone and are no longer with the two agencies once this move was initially proposed. So Phil, you were in the room for the hearing. What can you tell us about just some of the initial high-level impressions that were received from Scott Hutchins, the Department of Agriculture's representative there?
Right. Well, he caught a lot of heat about the relocation from Democrats on the committee, starting with the senior Democrat, Debbie Stabenow, who questioned him very sharply about why they were rushing to do this before September 30th, why they were not providing some flexibility to employees. A couple of senators ticked off the names of individual researchers who have left or are leaving the department, including the top researcher, probably one of the top experts in the country on organic agriculture, Catherine Green. Her name was brought up. Hutchins said at several points that yes, he knows this is going to cause difficulties for the agencies. They're losing a lot of people. Going to be different, but he kept promising that they would put in place an aggressive hiring strategy. They have 6 people that are starting there in Kansas City next week, and that he essentially promised that the Economic Research Service in particular would be bigger and better than ever before in the long range.
And those folks are scheduled to officially take root in Kansas City here in the month of September. So if they're going to be bigger and better than ever before, that's when the process is going to start, right then and there, when the folks that are actually planning to relocate pack their bags and move to the Midwest. But a lot of a few other things happened this week. I'd encourage you to stop by Agri-Pulse.com for a look at some of our newsletter coverage, as well as some other web articles that were posted throughout the week. But I think that's going to do it for this week. So for Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.